Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Raffi here, joined by Davian. Davian, as great as it would be if either of our teams were currently in the playoffs, I love this so much. I am so happy to say that the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs are officially underway. Immediately started with a fight. Brady Tkachuk and Jordan Staal dropping the gloves. I love this so much. I wish the Blackhawks were playing right now, but I got my backup team. The B in Bruins stands for backup, as in my backup team that I root for. I'm a now Bruins fan for the next probably 2 weeks before they lose to the Sabres, but I'm just happy playoff hockey is back.
Bounce in the first round.
Probably, or bounce in the second round, or bounce in the third round. So there's plenty of versatility with a B where they play with their B game. Who knows? We'll see what winds up happening. But anyways, Davian, I love this. I love this so much. This is the next 2 months are going to be absolutely fantastic. Next 3 months, so I'm excited. But Davian, how are you? How are you doing? Again, I know you wish your Rangers were here. I predicted them to be here, but some things just don't go to plan, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Very unfortunate circumstances for the Rangers. But the Knicks play tonight. We are recording this on Saturday, April 18th, so I'm excited to see how the Knicks play. And, so while you're focused on hockey a lot, I'm going to be focused on basketball in that sense. It's been exciting. The playing games were absolutely amazing. We might have seen the end of the Steve Kerr era on the Warriors, and that's very sad. But any case, though, hockey, NHL. I actually am prepared for this, Raffi. I think this is a very exciting playoffs. There's a lot of teams that are young. There's a lot of teams that are underdogs that usually are never underdogs. You got fast, skilled players. You got slow, technical game. You have teams with great goalies. We have teams with terrible goalies. But it doesn't matter anymore, Raffi, because it's the playoffs, and anything can happen in the playoffs.
Way to cover your butt right to start the show. Guys, I know I've done all my research, but I think all of these can really go either way. You're pulling one right out of my book, Davian.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm proud of you or if I should be disgusted by what you just said there. But anyways, Davian, I'll hand it. Where do you want to start with this? Where do you want to start? We'll do it similar to basketball. Obviously, there's no play-in, but we got the first round. So where do you want to start? And we'll just go from there and just dive right in.
You want to start off with the East? Start off with Carolina, sure. Ottawa. I think this game is underway right now, right?
Currently underway, 2:18 left in the first period. So currently 0-0, Davian, if you were planning on changing your predictions at any point. Although I highly recommend not changing predictions, not even the first period into the first playoff game. But here I got Carolina over Ottawa in 7. I like this Carolina team a lot. They're very technically sound defensively. They have physical presence. The big thing for them is their secondary scoring of Martin Hook. You have Taylor Hall. You have Logan Stankoven. Is Sebastian Aho really going to step up in this postseason? So a lot of question marks for him. Svechnikov has gone quiet before, but I think they're going to take care of Ottawa in 7. This Ottawa team is going to be very feisty. Brady Tkachuk, they're literally hitting absolutely everyone this entire first period, really setting the tone. It's going to be a very physical series, and I have this going to distance 7 games, and I have Carolina being Ottawa. I just think that they're just slightly ahead of Ottawa, even though Ottawa now has that experience of a postseason run already, being last year when they played the Leafs in the first round.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it really goes down to Linus Ullmark is really one of the true swing factors when it comes to this entire series. If Ottawa has good goaltending, above average goaltending, of course, I agree with you, Raffi. I see this series no matter what going to game 6 or the series going to 6 or 7. But I really do think that they're going to win in 7 games. And so the reason for that is because I think Carolina is a better team. Ottawa is the underdog here. And goaltending has definitely not been on par. They, especially since the Olympic break, of course, the Sens have been one of the best teams in the league. Right. With strong even strength results and solid special teams, which of course is huge when it comes to the playoffs. If you're really how you perform during the penalty is incredibly important, and if you're subpar in it in the playoffs, there's no way you're gonna win games. With all that being said, Carolina in 7, I agree with that.
Yeah, great ball knowledge there, David. Or I guess puck knowledge would be what we'd be putting here with Linus Ullmark. I completely agree. He's going to definitely be a big X factor for the Senators. And again, you mentioned it too. They've been really good the past month. Again, one of the hottest teams along with the Buffalo Sabres, who we'll talk about shortly. And they've really turned their season around from a really rough first half of the year to where a lot of people were expecting them to take a big step back to really being on a roll. A lot of people have them as a dark horse to go deep, but we're both in agreement here that we just think the Carolina Hurricanes are a little bit better. Let's move over to the next Metro matchup in the Metro section of the Eastern Conference playoffs. And Davian, it says Penguins Flyers. That I think that's a typo. These two teams were supposed to be bottom 5 teams this year. The Penguins I can understand.
Wait, Rafi. Can I make an introduction for this?
Yes,
this match.
absolutely.
Okay. So, when William Penn created the state of Pennsylvania, it was made out of grit. It was made out of iron and steel. These two teams do not like each other. They might be in the same state, but gloves will be dropped. This is what is on the line for both of these teams is honor across the state. Honor of a legacy and history. This is more than just the Lord Stanley for these two teams. This is about a rivalry that goes back for decades upon decades. With that being said, Raffi, go ahead and say your prediction.
That was a lovely intro. I do appreciate
I
that.
needed to do it. It was kind of.
So you have the Penguins, who everyone going into this year was like, okay, this is the one selling team.
Yeah.
This is the one selling team.
Yeah, of course.
Where's Sidney Crosby going to play? Is he actually going to stay in Pittsburgh? Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And no, they were Sidney Crosby, Brian Rust, Raquel. Malkin's been fantastic this year. He's really bounced back from a couple years where he wasn't like bad, but was kind of meh. Erik Karlsson, absolutely fantastic year on the back end for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, you have Letang too. And yes, you have Stuart Skinner in net, but I say why not? Let this Penguins team just play a little bit. I'm not going to doubt Sidney Crosby in the playoffs, especially versus the Flyers. So I'm going to go Penguins over Flyers in 6. The Flyers, I'm going to be completely honest, I still have no idea why they're here. Most of the time I can reason my way and say, you know what, this is why. I genuinely have no idea how they made it this far. But they made it this far. Porter Martone is going to be a massive pickup for them.
Yeah,
he plays exactly how you want to be playing playoff hockey. That's why he was taken 4th overall last year by the Flyers, 4th or 5th overall. Maybe it was 6th. Anyways, the reason why the Flyers took him as high as they did in the first round of last year's draft. So this will be interesting. Dan Vladar is going to be very intriguing to see how he plays for Philly and net. But yeah, I got Pittsburgh in 6 here.
Yeah. Rafi, I think one thing to be mentioned is Philly's defense is incredibly strong, at the same time, when it comes to Pittsburgh, they just have the clear edge. Philadelphia, and what I mentioned earlier, of course, is how you play doing the power play and special teams, and the Flyers suck at it. I mean, they're bottom ranked.
Exactly. That's why it's so surprising,
right? Like I don't know how you get into the playoffs like that.
You look at their stuff. It's really just like
10 PK penalty kill.
They're close game merchants. They're what the Flames were last year. The Flames had 96 points last year, missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
And you look at it, it's like, okay, goaltending and winning 1-goal games was like the only reason why they even made it this far. And if you think the Flyers are egregious, David, is there another team in the Western Conference who's going to make a good run for the Flyers' money of how in the world did they make it? But yeah, I completely agree. Continue on.
The only way the Flyers win this is really if it goes down to that tight scoring matchup that you talked about, and if they really make a trench warfare. Because at the end of the day, the Penguins' defense is not that great. With all that being said, though, I also have Pittsburgh in 6. I just think that you have a better play. You have the best player in the series. You have a better special team setup, and Philadelphia is just. Their only good side is their defensive identity, and that doesn't even show on special teams really. So, I think that's why I'm gonna have to take Pittsburgh. But that being said, Rafi, Western Conference. Let's start off with. I think we could go through this one quick. Colorado Avalanche versus LA Kings. Some people are calling it a sweep. I personally don't see it. I got Colorado in 5. LA looks better especially with Panarin. With the Panarin, Kopatri, and Kempe line. It's a legitimate matchup, and especially because in the playoffs, people talk about depth a lot, but at the end of the day, Rafi, did we go through the? Oh wait, I'm jumping too.
No, we'll jump back. We'll jump back. Keep it going.
Yeah. Like that Panarin, Kopatri, Kempe line. Is legitimate, and the thing is, when it comes to the playoffs, Rafi, you and I both know this, that yes, depth matters, But your top three lines are really where it counts because those guys are going to be putting in a lot more minutes in the playoffs. There's no more time management, injury management. It's really about playing your best players and putting them out there as much as you can. And so that really goes to Colorado's issue, which is injury, and especially when it comes to Kale Marker. Kale
Kill
McCarr,
McCarr. Yeah.
and whether he's able to come back and play at the same strength. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he might be out in the first game or two. My notes might be wrong on that. With all that being said, though, I still got Colorado in 5. I don't think it's gonna be a clear sweep because I do think this Kings team is legitimate. But I mean, Colorado is just such a better team on all other fronts.
Yeah, Colorado's absolutely fantastic. I don't have too much to say here. I feel bad for Kopitar. This is obviously had his retirement recently, retiring at the end of the year, but he's really going to get only 2 games in LA before, and that's really going to be it for him with his career. I don't think this is going to 5. I have a Colorado over LA. The LA Kings overtime loss merchants. Oh my goodness, Davian, there has not been a team that has gone to more overtime games and lost as many overtime and shootout games as the LA Kings this past year. I was saying the Flyers are fraudulent. The Kings, that's a whole other level of fraudulent. Yeah. You don't have Kuzmenko for this series. You don't have Kevin Fiala for this series. And yes, Panarin's been really good for them. But yeah, I just I have Colorado row. I don't think it's going to be a very close series. A couple years ago, people were talking about the second wildcard spot in the West, and this was the year the Avalanche won the Cup. It was 4 years ago at this point. And I forgot who it was, but it was like some analyst or some coach was like, okay, like, yeah, if we make it, it's a waste of like a week and a half. Like we're just gonna get swept by Colorado Avalanche, and that's exactly what's gonna happen to this team. Whoever was taking this spot was like, congrats, you made the playoffs. Here's your extra gate revenue for 2 games. Enjoy your sweep. Move on. Let's go to the next one, and then we'll round out the West, and then we'll jump back over to the East. Dallas, Minnesota. This is.
Why does this need to be the first round, Raffi? Like, why can't we get this later on? Like, this should be like the Stanley Cup, final, a championship here. These teams
think
are
about the rivalries this will create, though, Davian. Yeah. That's why we can't go 1 through 8. We cannot do 1 through 8, Davian. As we see the top 3 teams in the Western Conference. Only one of them is going to obviously make it to the conference final, and 2 of them are going to have to face off in the second round, which is bonkers. Although the Avalanche essentially have a bye because they won the division because they're playing the Kings. But yeah, this is going to be a 7-game series. I got Dallas. I just like they're centered up more. Rupe Hintz should be back. He might miss a game or 2, but overall, he'll be good to go. Heiskanen, little iffy on what's really going on with him. But again, if both of them are good to go, you have Duchesne still. Sam Steele's been really good on the 4th line. Maverick Bourque's been a 40-point player this year for Dallas. He's really stepped up depth-wise. And on defense, you have Miro, you have Lindell, you have Thomas Harley, who hasn't been as good as past years, but still solid. And Jake Ottinger is one of the top goalies in the NHL. He'd be the best goalie in Canada if he was Canadian, but unfortunately he's American, so he's only the 3rd best goalie for the U.S. hockey team. But I got Dallas over Minnesota. I feel bad to pick against Minnesota. If they lose again in the first round, as a Blackhawks fan, I will find that absolutely hilarious. But I just think Dallas has, I think they just have more star power, even though the Wild have Quinn Hughes. They have the goaltending, and obviously they have Kirill Kaprizov up front. That they're just lacking with the centers for them to go on a deep run.
Rafi, I think this is one place where I'm going to disagree with you, and I really think it comes down to injuries because when it comes to Rupe Hurts, it looks like he's going to be missing game 1 and 2, according to my notes here. And I think that plays a huge factor. I think that every single when you're having 2 highly competitive teams go up against each other, you really need everyone to show up. And when you have one player missing, it plays a huge factor. And you need to see if hopefully Miro Heiskanen is also Heiskanen is healthy as well because he plays such a huge part for the Dallas team. And so when it comes to defensive depth, if he's injured, it really causes an issue for Dallas. And so I think that in the long, and I know that depth doesn't matter as much when it comes to the playoffs, but it is still a huge factor. And when it comes to the Wild with Kirill, Kaprizov, and their defensive core. I think that's why I have to take the Wild over the Stars. I get why you're picking the Stars, but I think everything matters, and just because of the health of Haskin and his usage, can Minnesota, I think that those are the biggest things. And Quinn Hughes, I mean, he's such a difference maker for this team. I have to take the Wild.
I think the big thing, as you mentioned, is going to be those games 1 and 2, when Miro Heiskanen's getting back to it, Rupe Hintz is getting back to it. How do they look? And then if Dallas goes down 2-0, you're going down 2-0, not only down 2-0, obviously, but
you're going down 2-0.
Games 3 and 4 are in Minnesota.
Yeah,
so that can be a tough hole to dig out of if you're Dallas. But again,
because the thing is, if you go down 3-0, or if you're down 3-1, then at that point it's like the momentum is completely on the Wild side. Now it's the playoffs and anything can happen. But I think it's incredibly important for Dallas to win at least one of those first 2 games.
I completely agree. That's going to be the big key for them. And again, they have the goaltending to steal a game as well, which is why I still think that the Dallas Stars really are able to do it. Losing Tyler Seguin when they did earlier on in the year to a torn ACL or torn MCL, whichever it was, that was a big loss for their depth as well. But you still look at their team. You still have Wyatt Johnson at center. Rupe Hintz will be back shortly. You have Matt Duchene who can fill the role at center. You have Sam Steele. Hurts-Kowian, there's a name that I'm very glad. I don't know if you are familiar with his name or not, but that's a guy that if you were Heiskanen was a little bit of an issue there. I appreciate you trying, but Hurts-Kowian, that is a name that I'm having trouble with. I think you're just going to look at, if you see his name, you're going to be like, that is way too many consonants in a row. I'm not saying this guy's
I'm just going to be like, Raffi, this player right here. I'm going to text you, like, please say this guy's name.
Exactly. But yeah, so we'll agree to disagree. But moving on, for the sake of moving on, we'll move over to the Pacific area of the Western Conference. Vegas, Utah. I got Vegas in 7 over Utah. Hockey's back. Playoff hockey's back for this overall franchise, and now it's in Utah, which is going to be great to see. The Zammoth will strike fear in the opponents that are bestowed upon them, but I got Vegas here. They've looked really good since Bruce Cassidy got fired, and they brought in John Tortorella. Carter Hart's been looking really good in net for them too down the stretch, so I think they're going to be able to right the ship. They already have right the ship, and I think that they're going to at least get this first round win over the Utah Mammoth.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you just mentioned, goaltending is the biggest thing. I mean, goaltending has sucked for the Vegas throughout the season, and it's definitely turned around at the latter end of it. But Utah is definitely, I think, more exciting in terms of even strength, and they come in waves. And the Schmidt Marino pair, I think, is incredibly lethal for Utah. And so I am also going to take Vegas, but I'm taking Vegas in 7. I think that this is an area where we could get upset because of Utah. I think, like, another thing is, like, Utah's too young. It's their first time in the playoffs. This is not a franchise that has ever been in the playoffs, of course. And so I think that the playoff physicality is incredibly important, and Utah is just a smaller team in terms of size-wise. And I think that if they don't get physical with Vegas, I think, you know, this could be end shorter than 7 games. But at least for now, because of Vegas' shaky goaltending, I'm taking Vegas in 7.
Yeah, and as we've seen when Vegas won the Cup in 2023, you really just need one of your goalies to hit and get hot, and then you're pretty much set. That's exactly what happened with Vegas and why they were able to win the Stanley Cup final. That year was, funny enough, Ian Hill, who has looked really poor recently. But again, if Carter Hart's the guy who catches fire, then that's great for Vegas, and hopefully they can turn this into a couple series wins and go on another deep run. Moving to round out the Western Conference first round, Oilers, Ducks. David, I'll hand it over to you first for your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to Edmonton, the biggest thing is goaltending plus Draisaitl's health. So without Draisaitl at an elite level, it's hard to see Edmonton go far in this bracket in total. But they are able to, I think, get past the Ducks. For the Ducks, the biggest thing is Lucas Dostal. It's the goaltending edge that Dostal it provides, and it's clearly superior than Edmonton's. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's hard to bet against McDavid. And I know that Edmonton
100%.
has not had that success in the playoffs in the past. And Raffi, I know you like to make the analogy of the Chargers playoff curse when it comes to the NFL. You can almost say that there's an Edmonton curse when it comes to the NHL playoffs for Edmonton. But I have to bet on McDavid. I got Edmonton in 6.
Yeah, I got Edmonton in 6 as well. Ducks, young, inexperienced team. They do have some guys in Kreider and Trouba who have played in the postseason before. They have Alex Killorn, who's obviously won at least one, maybe I believe both Stanley Cups with Tampa. It was definitely both Stanley Cups with Tampa Bay. So they do have playoff experience, but overall the team is still rather young. And Edmonton, I'm not going to bet against Connor McDavid, especially this early. And Leon Draisaitl, even at 60%, 70%, is still better than 99% of the NHLers that are currently actively playing, and even retired ones, because obviously it's kind of a layup. But anyways, I'm still taking Draisaitl at 70% over most players in the NHL, if not almost all of them. So I got Edmonton in 6 as well. And yeah, we'll touch on the goaltending at some point, because if we thought Stuart Skinner was bad, Tristan Jarry is not doing too much better. But who knows? Maybe Jarry can turn around. He's had a deep postseason run with the Penguins when the Penguins won their 2 Stanley Cups in 2016 and 2017. So maybe things turn around. Maybe he just locks in for the playoffs, but we'll see what happens with them. And last thing, too, I really like the additions of Jason Dickinson and Connor Murphy at the trade deadline. 2 trades with the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm happy with the returns as a Blackhawks fan, I must say. But I do think that both of them provide those shutdown defensive roles, one at forward at center, one on the back end on the right shot side. And I think both of them are going to... First, I'm glad that they're playing the postseason. Connor Murphy has yet to play in the postseason. This is going to be his first time truly playing in the postseason atmosphere. Obviously, 2020 was with the Blackhawks, but that was in the bubble, no fans, etc. So I am really happy for Connor Murphy, and I think both of them were exactly what the Oilers need in order to go on a deep run. And they have the depth with Podkolzin and other guys, too, to potentially really step up and be real game changers for them, because McDavid and Draisaitl can only do so much, and that's been made very apparent over the past couple runs that have wound up going short. Before we get into Western Conference, Eastern Conference Finals, and lead into the Stanley Cup Finals, let's round out the East. We'll go back over there. Buffalo, Boston. I'm wearing the Bruins jersey, Davian, but I'm going to go with the Sabres.
Yeah, I was about to
so
say
great
that,
to see them in the postseason again. First time in 14, 15 years. I'm going to pick against what I typically say, and that's I like the more experienced teams in the postseason to go deeper. And the Bruins play a very physical game. They play that playoff type of physicality, and they play with a lot of edge, especially as a team that really lacks offensive upside. You always have Pastrnak, you have Morgan Geekie, and you have a couple guys complimentary as well. Pavel Zacha as well, who could chip in offensively, and they have some good depth players. Their defense is really good. Obviously, you have McAvoy, who's been healthy this year. That's been a big reason why they've been as good as they have been. Lindholm, Swayman, and Net has had a big bounce back here. But I'm going to go with the Sabres here. They're just such a deep team, and it finally feels like things have turned around for them, and they're finally playing to their potential. So I'm going to go Buffalo in 7 over the Bruins. I think they're going to make it a tough series, but I think Buffalo just has more high-end talent to get out of this first-round matchup.
Yeah, I think it depends on how much this game opens up. If this series is gonna be like 1-goal games, like very physical and kind of low scoring, I think Boston can take an edge with Swayman at the net behind the in between the pipes. With that being said, though, I think that Buffalo's Dahlin and Samuelson's pair is just it's their huge strength. The depth on Buffalo's team, and I know I mentioned earlier again that depth is not as much as an important factor. It's just the fact that they have so many lines that Buffalo could play to wear out this Boston team that is older in many cases. I know I get experience versus youth. I get the Cinderella run that both teams are looking to do. But with that being said, I personally have Buffalo in 6 instead of 7.
Yeah, and Dahlin is going to get Norris votes this year. He's one of the best defensemen that
absolutely,
this year.
yeah.
And it's been an absolute great story. All right, moving down, and it's so... Obviously, I love playoff hockey. Obviously, I love all playoff series equally. But there are a couple where, like, it's like you say, like, some parents are like, oh, like, they're, like, I love you all. And it's like, well, you clearly like this child a little bit more. And as much as I love all these playoff series, Minnesota-Dallas is one of them, but this Tampa-Montreal series,
Man.
I am so excited for.
Yeah.
I have Tampa in 7. Montreal, Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky. They've been fantastic this year. I greatly enjoyed my time going to the Bell Center a few weeks ago. That was such a crazy atmosphere, and as a Blackhawks fan, I'm blessed with a great atmosphere in general. That was just a whole other level. I finally saw why people say it's one of the best places to go watch a hockey game, because just the atmosphere is really just second to none. Dobesh has been really good, but even I know people are going to say, well, the Lightning don't have Hedman. The Lightning this year have been 33, 12, and 4 without Victor Hedman this year. They've actually been better without Victor Hedman than with him. And at some point, you hope that he's going to return. We still don't know really what's going on. He took a leave of absence, and obviously hope everything's going well with him. But even when he's back, he hasn't been as good as he typically has been in past years. I think they'll still help, obviously, because it's Victor Hedman. But J.J. Moser's looked really good. Darren Radish just getting like casual 70 points in a contract here, popping off offensively. So Tampa has the guys to warrant a deep run. Vasilevsky has been just, again, fantastic. And I always
and
will
Kucherov
rely
has
on...
been a monster.
Exactly. And the reason why I picked Tampa going deep last year, and the fallacy with that was the fact that Florida was able to out-physical them. And I truly believe that if it wasn't for the Panthers, the Lightning would have been the team to go all the way to the Stanley Cup and potentially win the Stanley Cup last year. Now that the Panthers are not in the Lightning's way, I think the Lightning are going to go on a very deep run. We'll get to the Lightning. I'll talk about them a little bit more, but I just think they have some more offensive firepower. I like their defense more. Dobson's going to be missing the first 2 games for Montreal, one of their top pair guys. And if you're asking me to take Vasilevsky versus literally anyone else in a playoff series, I'm going to go with Vasilevsky. So I have Tampa Bay in 7. Montreal's more experienced now. Nick Suzuki's been fantastic this year. Finally, he cracked 100 points. But I'm just going to bet on Tampa Bay because they've shown in the past that they're capable of going on a deep run, and they still have decent depth to warrant such high standing.
I think one thing I'll add to kind of really solidify the case for Tampa is Jakob Dobesh. Under pressure in the playoffs, can he perform? The young stars, can they handle the playoff physicality? Because it's different, Raffi. You and I were just talking about this before we started recording, that when the start of the Ottawa game, gloves just dropped, and that's the physicality that I expect to see throughout this playoffs, especially given that the refs have really swallowed their whistle when it comes to a lot of the fighting. We've seen like 4 goalie fights this year. It's the physicality is back in hockey. The Olympic break, I think, plays a factor in a lot of things, especially when it comes to age and injuries, which is a big factor when it comes to Tampa. And I think that this team is better rested to an extent than they were, in other years. Again, Panthers out of the way. I have Tampa going on a deep run, and we'll get into that also later on.
Yeah, so let's dive right into that. We just went through all of our first round predictions. Davian, who do you have in your Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals, and who do you have in the Stanley Cup final?
Yeah, I think I could just mention I didn't predict exactly who I have in my Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals. I forget how the bracket works out, but if this is how it would work in the Eastern Conference, I would have the Hurricanes and Tampa. I'm not exactly sure if that would
viable.
That would. Okay, so that's what I would have in the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference, not exactly certain who I'd have, but when it comes to the actual finals, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning, of course, in the Eastern Conference, and I think that what we just mentioned is really the biggest factor. And on the Western side, I want to pick the Wild. I really do. I really like this team and everything they have going, but my mind and inkling and everything that I've seen wants to pick Colorado just because of how the strength on that team and everything they have going. But I'm going to go out on a limb like I did in March Madness. I'm going to say the Minnesota Wild. I
agree with you on the Eastern Conference final. I have Tampa, Carolina. I have Tampa winning that. Tampa's experience I think is going to best Buffalo. Carolina, I think regardless, Pittsburgh or Philadelphia is going to win that second round matchup. And then Carolina, we are such sick people to have them losing again in the Eastern Conference final and to a Florida-based team. Oh boy, if that happens, that'll be certainly very interesting. But I have Tampa. I just think they have the offensive firepower. They have the depth, and they really do have the centers that you want to see, especially Cirelli at second line center. So I have Tampa over Carolina. The goaltending as well. Obviously, again, as I mentioned, I don't need to reiterate. Vasilevsky is one of the best goalies in the NHL, so I have full trust in him, especially in the postseason. He's definitely warranted that. And then I have Dallas over Edmonton in the Western Conference Final. Edmonton takes out Vegas in the second round. Dallas takes out Colorado. I feel like we really haven't given Colorado their flowers in this podcast. They're obviously we President's Trophy winner.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic offensively. Sure. You add Nazem Kadri, so you have McKinnon, Brock Nelson, Nazem Kadri as your top three, your first three-line centers, which is just unheard of, and that is truly what you see out of a team that's capable of going on a deep run. But, again, and this is me going out on a limb myself, this Dallas-Minnesota series is going to be very interesting for both of us for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I have Dallas. You know what? I'm going to say Heiskanen and Hintz, they're healthy, they're good, they're able to make it past Minnesota, they're rested, ready to go for Colorado. They won last year. Mikko Rantanen stepped up, hat-trick, Game 7 to send them over the Colorado Avalanche last year. I have Dallas beating Colorado again, and I have the Dallas Stars at long last winning a Stanley Cup rematch from 2020 over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Give me the Dallas Stars over the Tampa Bay Lightning to win the Stanley Cup. Davian, there's one person who would really prefer this doesn't happen and hopes your way it goes like you, because I really want Jason Robertson to be a Chicago Blackhawk, and if Dallas falls flat and he has a poor first round, they will probably potentially look into trading him. So as a Blackhawks fan, I ideally want to root for the Wild here and hope Jason Robertson has a poor first round.
Yeah.
But my heart is saying Dallas goes on a deep run. Jason Robertson stays in Dallas. I'm upset, but you know what? At least the Wild are still a meme and still can't make it out of the first round. The Blackhawks of the Dynasty days still live in the Minnesota Wild, where they cannot go on a deep postseason run. So we'll see what happens. David, any final thoughts before we conclude this podcast?
You didn't even let me pick who I have lifting Lord Stanley, Raffi, and you want to wrap up the podcast?
I thought you were going to go with Minnesota. I thought that's what you were saying, but please take it away.
Well, yeah, I do want to go Minnesota, but let me explain why I want to go Minnesota over the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think it really goes down to goaltending and defense, and I know this is a bold and gutsy call, and usually I'm the type of guy that, especially when it comes to hockey, I love seeing the speed, the young stars, the experience. That's what really matters in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I have to pick the Wild, and it's really because of their defense. I think that goalie tandem is the best in the league that they have. And I think the defense that they have is able to stop explosive teams like the Lightning. I think that, while the Lightning have the experience, I'm worried about their injuries building up and the wear and tear on their veterans. And so I think by the time you get to that Stanley Cup final, I think it will be ugly in many cases. I think it will be a defensive battle to an extent. I think this will be a long series, and I think at the end, the Minnesota Wild come out on top.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, you have top pair, Brock Faber and Quinn Hughes. The Quinn Hughes acquisition was such a big deal for Minnesota.
It's huge. It's really game-changing for them.
It really slotted that, and obviously you acquire one of the top two defensemen in the NHL. Wow, Raffi, great groundbreaking analysis. Adding superstar defensemen helps your team win. Yeah, I know that's crazy. But it really helps with the slotting of their defense, where now Brock Faber, instead of being the do-it-all defenseman, is now a number 2, plays alongside Quinn Hughes. Then Jared Spurgeon, who's 36, Jonas Brodin, who is 32, they've dropped down to the second pair. You can take some of that power play time from Jared Spurgeon down. You have Quinn Hughes now running both power play units.
Yeah, exactly.
Can likely do. Jacob Middleton, who is a really solid second pair defenseman, now is dropping to the third pair. Really good physical presence, really solid guy as well. He's a top 4 defenseman on most teams. So it really helps slot this defense down to, as you mentioned, Davian, very deep at defense, very physical, and you have a little bit of everything too. You want more offensive guy, you throw Quinn Hughes out there. You want a little bit of two-way, Brock Faber works. You want Quinn Hughes just went out there, Jared Spurgeon could provide some offense. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but hey, it's fine. You need another lockdown guy in the PK, Jonas Brodin's your guy. You want a guy who's going to punch you in the face a ton, throw out Jacob Middleton. He's going to hit a bunch of guys and just hit anything that's a moving target. So you really have a great defensive core in the Minnesota Wild. And then Philip Gustafson is a guy who can take this team on a deep run. He is a Stanley Cup winning caliber goalie, in my opinion. And again, it's really just going to come down to the centers for me. Joel Eriksson Ek is a solid center, but you look after that, they really don't have enough in that center.
I get it. The depth lacks in the center. Yeah, I agree that will be their Achilles heel if they do end up losing in the first round, even. But I think that it will hold up, and I think that the defensive prowess and of course the goaltending I think is what's going to carry them through to the finals and lifting Lord Stanley in the end.
Yep. And Davian, before I accidentally forget anything else, is there anything else you want to mention before I wrap this up?
No, Raffi, I think that's all. I think, if there's any playoffs that's going to get me into hockey, it's going to be this one. And I'm excited as you are excited. We'll be covering it throughout the playoffs if anything big happens. You might see me a bit in tears if the Wild end up losing to the Stars after in the first round and completely busting my bracket. But I'm excited. I'm excited, to say the least.
I'm surprised you would say that with all the Rangers playoff hockey that you've seen over the past couple of years. I'm surprised that hasn't done it for you already. But you know what? We'll hope this postseason can live up to your expectations.
Look, watching the Rangers is always great, but you always have in the back of your mind that they might lose, and I think it's just the quality of hockey that we're going to see all across the board is going to be great. Like, I don't see any of these series being sweeps at all throughout the playoffs. But no, of course the Rangers hockey was exciting to watch. I remember going to Central Park and watching the games live with a bunch of the fans, going to the watch parties. It's definitely a highlight of my childhood in many ways. And I hope it'll be a highlight of my adulthood too. Turn things around.
That makes two of us, because I don't know how many more years I can do without Blackhawks playoff hockey, especially as someone who's now in the workforce. I am grateful to have the financial backing to where if I want to get playoff tickets for the Blackhawks,
you could do it.
I can afford that. I'm in a much better place than I was in 2010, 2013, and 2015 when I was 8, 10, and 13 years old respectively, where unfortunately I did not capitalize on the housing crash of 2008 and buy a house because I was too busy learning my ABCs.
I don't know why you didn't invest in Bitcoin either.
I really should have, but that we'll deal with the investments and talking about our failed ideas as children, how we wound up missing out on being millionaires on another podcast at a later point. But that'll do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Let us know your thoughts on the playoffs as a whole. Who you guys have winning the Stanley Cup final? Who you guys have in your first round matchups? Just overall, let us know in the comments below. And we'll see what happens. Again, I've said it enough. I love this time of year. I love the NHL playoffs. It's by far my favorite of all the sports playoffs. And hopefully we get Davian on board more. I know he's already. I appreciate your research. I appreciate your enthusiasm. And I can't wait in a couple weeks to where we're talking about hopefully me being right. But either way, hopefully you are enjoying the postseason. Even that, and then also with the NBA, with hopefully the Knicks doing on a deep run as well, to at least soothe those urges to see one of your New York teams go on a deep postseason run. So that'll do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you on the next one. See ya.
I understand hockey, Ben. Kachuk knows how to read. Peace.